Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Great to have you aboard on this, the 4th of July. This is the Tangent Podcast. Today, we're going to break down the biggest true crime story, case, and perhaps disappointment for some, depending upon what you wanted to see as an outcome. Of course, we're talking about the Idaho 4 case. That defendant getting a plea deal, having the most serious potential punishment eliminated from the equation. He went in, he admitted to his guilt. And today we're going to ask the question, why? Why did he do it? And I'm not talking about the guilty plea. It's obvious he didn't want to face the firing squad, right? That's why he did it. Why did prosecutors do it? That's another question. But why did he do what he did? Why did he do what he did? And we're going to play for you an unbelievable interview that was done with Dr. Ramsland, who was his professor at DeSales. Extremely interesting. Brian Enton, friend of mine, great correspondent over at News Nation, did the interview. We're going to take a look at some of that interview. And I think part of that may answer this question. It may not. But it's all about America today. And I don't know, Jonesy, I usually do the intros here, but I'm just wondering what on earth Al will be talking about on this day in history today.
Well, I can imagine it'll be a series of things, one or two of which we could easily guess. But he is the unpredictable.
He is unpredictable that way.
And I'm sure he'll have some other tidbits.
Yes.
For example, happy anniversary, Vinny.
Yes, thank you very much. By the way, this is the Tangent Podcast. I'm Vinny Politan, lead anchor for Court TV. With me, Albert H. Wunsch III. He's a lawyer. He's a comedian. He's a historian. We also have the radio legend Jonesy with us. Good day.
Good day.
So get ready, folks. The fireworks are about to begin. This is
bang, bang.
The Tangent Podcast.
It's Vinny and the Tangents, true crime podcast. Vinny has the blue eyes, Al cracks the jokes. Jonesy stays behind his shades, entertaining all the folks. It's Vinny and the Tangents, true crime podcast. Load up all your comments, hit those super chats. Let's go smash that like button, so we can all have a blast. Vinny, Al, and Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill gang of true crime. They're telling stories of days gone by. They take crime and turn into a good old time. It's Vinny and the Tangents, true crime podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tangent True Crime Podcast today. Why? Why did he do it? This is a complicated question. It's not an easy one. But were you surprised, though, and we'll begin here because there was a plea hearing where he did not say anything other than yes, 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 guilty, 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 did not provide, in his own words, any factual basis about what he actually did.
Correct. Because he didn't have to. And guess what? They were not going to get the motive at a trial anyway. First of all, he doesn't have to take the stand. Second of all, they have no motive. They couldn't figure it out. That had been the mystery out of all of this.
Wait. But he knows why he did it.
But he doesn't have to take the stand.
Well, you can make it a condition of the plea.
Well, no. You cannot make that as a condition of the plea.
Yes, you can.
It would not. There's never been. I have never seen a prosecutor make that a condition of the plea.
Sometimes the condition of the plea is tell us where the body is.
Well, that's a different situation.
No, it isn't.
Okay? Yes, it
Part
is.
of the case.
No,
It's
it
a
isn't. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's a completely different situation. Okay. In that situation, it is to alleviate the fact that the family doesn't know where the body is, to give them closure on that.
How about getting
the motive,
Their children are gone.
let's face it, folks, the motive was never going to be determined at this trial. And also, let's face it, to all you naysayers that nayed us last time about the fact that he's probably the guy that didn't do it, that he's been set up, that he did everything else. They had a ton of evidence, and he pled guilty so that he could spend his time in a cell next to Chad Daybell. So this is the reason why he pled guilty, because he likes Chad, and he'll be spending a lot of time.
No, Chad is on the row. This guy's not on the row. Chad is on the row.
He's going to be sent to the row. He's going to be sent to the same prison as him. So they're going to be in the same prison. Okay? They're going to be in the same prison. But what I'm trying to say is that
actually being punished.
We were never going to get a motive out of this.
You could have made it a condition of the plea.
Taking away the right to take away the, and you are right, but you're also wrong. Taking away his appeal power is the most significant aspect of this, and there will be a civil trial where they'll get the same opportunity to find out what he did at that time. Okay, there's going to be a civil trial. We know that. I can't imagine that they're not going to. What are you doing, Indian stuff?
But the civil trial, he doesn't have to do anything. He can default. He cannot respond.
And if he ever thinks there's an opportunity for him to get out, he will cooperate. So let's keep that in mind. There's nothing that's been said on this plea, as far as I'm aware of, that doesn't say he is not eligible for parole at some point in time. Now, I can't imagine he's going to get out before he's 196. But if you think about it, in order for him to be able to do that, he's going to have to point out certain things of cooperation and other things along those lines. Because one of the things you need to do when you go up on a parole hearing or anything is to cooperate. So if he says, I cooperated with the family on a civil trial, that might be a plus for him down the line. Yeah. But let's also not
the deal was no parole.
Let's not forget the victims don't dictate how a case goes forward. They have, under the Victims' Bill of Rights, the right to be participatory in it, right to be brought up to date, but they don't have the final say. That's why it's not, family versus Brian. It is the state of Idaho versus Colbert. That's the situation. And ultimately, when I was a prosecutor, I would always speak with the victims because not only because I had to, but always I thought it was a moral imperative to do that. But state-wise, law-wise, I was required to. But ultimately, if I wanted to make a plea arrangement, I was entitled to do that, and they could not in any way interfere with that. But that's the law. That's why it's not Jonesy versus Brian Colbert.
It's the law. Okay. The bottom line is the prosecutor holds all the keys, right? The defense called the prosecution wanting this deal because they know that he did it. They knew they would lose a trial. Everyone knew he would lose a trial. And they called for the deal. Okay, you want a deal? No appeal. Okay, you want a deal? You put a factual basis on the record in your own words. You tell us what you did. You don't just say yes.
You
want a deal. You explain why you did it.
Okay, then in your experience as a prosecutor, did you ever have to prove motive?
It's not about proving.
You have to demonstrate motive. You have to demonstrate the elements of the crime. That's what the state is required to do. They did that.
At a minimum, you hold the key to the case. Jonesy, a little respect for the families here. A little respect for the community. You're giving a deal to the worst of the worst. A mass red rummer is given a deal. He needs to give more up. This isn't like a burglary. This isn't a breaking and entering. This isn't a simple assault. This is mass red rum of 4 young innocent victims. He terrorized the entire community. People were scared to go back to school. He changed so many lives with his actions.
Okay.
You squeeze everything out of this man that the families want.
For what purpose?
If you're going to give him a deal, which two of the families did not want.
Well, okay, well, wait a minute. So what happened? He gets up there and says, I did it because they were the only door that was unlocked. That's a lie. Okay, so that's the motive. And no, I can sleep better at night knowing that. I'll just make sure I lock my door. Okay, that's ridiculous. It is ridiculous to put that on the table because they're not going to.
It's as ridiculous as giving him a deal. I think we froze him, Jonesy. It's your turn.
He does appear to be frozen. Oh, it's my turn.
It's your turn. Yeah, I'm going to unfreeze him. I froze him for a little bit.
Okay, I was really surprised because they have them, and when you got them, why make the deal? Is it to save money on the court costs? What could possibly be the reason to go for a deal? I mean, I'm sure it's massively expensive, a trial of that magnitude, but they're not supposed to really be worried about that, right? It's all about justice. And
it was easy. It's easier. I can tell you that. It's easier. They don't have to try the case. It's easier for the judge. It's easy. All right.
But it's hell on the networks.
Well, yeah, that's problematic for everyone. But see, to me, okay, you're going to give him a deal, but make him do something here. Like, he just said yes. Like, they made it. Everything was made so easy for the defendant and so difficult for the families. All he had to do, and by the way, they let him. He wasn't even wearing orange. There's no jury, and he's wearing. They put him up in a shirt and a tie in court. Like, why? Why did he get that? Everything was made easy for this defendant, and when he got into the courtroom, I mean, when I was a prosecutor on a simple case, a breaking and entering, the judge would often, if not all the time, make the defendant say what you did. Tell me what you did. You're pleading guilty today. Tell me what you did. Instead of asking a leading question where he just says, yes. And then the judge goes, and he says, yes. That to me, that is insulting to make everything as easy as possible for the defendant.
Do you think that was part of the deal, or do you just think that's the way it was handled?
I think that's the way they may normally handle it that way, but you have discretion. You can do it either way. You can do it however you want to do it. The judge can require it. The prosecutor could require it as part of the deal, but they didn't do that. They just handled it like every other thing. Let's go quick and easy, get in and out of here. And the first thing the judge did when he got on the bench, I think we got, I'm going to put Al back in. Al, you ready? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready, Al, if you can hear me. Al is struggling. I'm not going to put him in until it looks like he's all set.
I don't see an image. I just simply see a box that says present. So he is present, but not accounted for at this moment.
Yeah. Let me see if he's texting me.
I'm kind of, now people won't like this, but I'm kind of a believer in justice being blind. Of course the victims matter. Of course the victims' families matter. But I'm not even sure how I feel about victim impact statements in that Lady Justice is blind. So, whether it affected this person more than it affected my family, I don't know how much that should be accounted for in the proceedings of the court, and I'm sure I'll be despised for that.
Yeah, you will be.
It's always the way I felt. I mean, the statue, she's got a blindfold on for a reason.
Right. The parties to a case, like the defendant is a party to the case, but there's a victim in the case as well. And the victim needs to have a voice and have some level of impact on the case, because without a victim, there is no case. You follow me, Jonesy? So that's why victims have a voice now. They didn't always. There was a time where they had no voice. I can see Al. Let's see what he's saying to me. He's texting me right now. Looks like he's almost ready to get in there.
But doesn't that lead to the possibility of, okay, so you have a beloved, cherished, breadwinning family member, and something horrible happens, and you have his family telling the court about how important and wonderful, how great of a loss it is, and of course it's a loss for anybody. Then you have, on the other hand, maybe somebody who's been disowned by their family, maybe somebody who has nobody to stand up.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Doesn't this, like, if justice is blind, doesn't this make the person who has more people saying, like, we've lost this, that, and the other thing, versus the person who has nobody to stand there? Okay, well, nobody's there to stand up for them, so I guess it wasn't really that important. Doesn't, like, where does that work?
Here's Al. Al, you're on. Can you hear us? Can you see us?
You left the courtroom.
His internet is out.
July 4th. A lot of people using the internet.
Crazy. All right, let me get this going over here.
Everybody's getting ready to watch the hot dog eating contest.
Oh, that is so gross.
Oh, it's disgusting.
It's disgusting, but I watch it.
I do too.
Yeah, still checking with Al here. So here's the thing, right? And the point you made is something I never thought about before, Jonesy, is that some victims have less value in the eyes of the court because there is no one there to provide the victim impact statement or to be there for the victim. That is fascinating. That's a fascinating approach to that. I never looked at it that way.
Well, then I'm glad I brought up my feelings on that, because I almost didn't, because I knew people, like 99.9% of the people will disagree with me on it. So I'm glad I was able to put it in a perspective that maybe you understand where I'm coming from on it.
Yeah. Because at first I didn't, but now I do, and it makes total sense. I get it. Al, can you hear us?
I can hear. Can you hear me? We had a brownout. We had a brownout.
Were they rolling blackouts or brownouts?
I have no idea, but I mean, all of a sudden, everything went dead in this office. So I apologize. I apologize, everyone. Did I miss anything? A new topic now?
No. McSpunky said, "Pay your bill, Al."
Yeah, well, you know what? That's a good idea. But see, I tap into my neighbor's electric stuff, so it's a lot cheaper that way.
Do any of you guys have neighbors that are whose computer connections are under something like FBI surveillance squad or anything to that effect? Have you ever noticed that when you see the available Wi-Fis? Some people name their Wi-Fi something completely ridiculous, meant to frighten people away, like FBI surveillance van.
I have not seen
that.
Oh, it's McSpunky time.
It's time to get funky. It's time for us to smile, because here comes McSpunky.
And happy 4th to McSpunky. We may just keep him up there for the rest of the show. Looks like
we're gonna get funky like a monkey.
So now I didn't hear the point that Jonesy brought up.
Jonesy made a great point. So talking about victim impact statements.
Right.
And the reason he doesn't like them is there are some victims. I'm speaking for you, Jonesy. Is it okay, or do you want to speak for yourself?
Yeah, no, it's okay. But it did start. It started with me saying that justice is supposed to be blind, and then then go ahead, Vinny.
And he made a great point that I never thought of before, because I was gonna pretend he was you and yell at him, but then I couldn't because he made sense.
That's why I cut out on the internet, so I wouldn't have to hear that stuff.
What he's saying is that victims that don't have anyone there to speak for them then may have less value in a case, right? So, someone is red rummed, and you have all these people that come in and speak on behalf of that victim, and all of a sudden, like, that victim has incredible value in the court's eyes, but then you have another victim who has no one to speak for them. No one comes to court.
But that's where the prosecutor comes in. And the prosecutor speaks on behalf of the victim who is not there. And that is what I've seen in the past in situations similar to what was just brought up, that the prosecutor says, it gives the factual background, talks about, this person graduated high school in 1981 and this, that, the other thing, goes through that person's life history so that that person is remembered and that person is made into a person, not just a number and not just a name. And that's a sign of a good prosecutor. And that's it. It happens more often than not. A lot of times victims don't want to speak. They will write letters. And if they write a letter, the letter is generally read into the record by the prosecutor.
Yeah.
So, in all times, the victim is always going to be heard as long as there is a prosecutor there that knows their job and is going to take it very seriously. And I've never met one that hasn't.
They should hire professional actors to read those sort of letters.
You don't want to do that.
I'm being facetious, but it would be fun. Be good for ratings.
So obviously, it's never a fun situation when you're doing a sentencing.
Oh, sure it is.
It's not. It's not up there with one of the favorite. In fact, I will tell you, it is being on both sides, having been there prosecuting with regards to having victims' impact statements go in and being there on the defense. It is so like just a very, very unnerving experience to be sitting there while somebody is attacking your client for what they did and what they were pled guilty to or what they were found guilty for. And you don't know how to react. I always tell my clients to do the same thing. Look at the victim, okay, but do not make any grimaces, do not make any expressions, do not mouth out you're a liar, don't do anything along those lines, but give them the respect of at least watching them while they deliver it, and just keep a poker face for the entire time, because the judge is going to be watching your client more so than the victim. And I've seen judges say, and during the entire time that moving statement was going in, your client, Mr. Wunsch, was sitting there yawning, looking bored, laughing, smirking, things along those lines, so that they will pay attention to your client during those statements. But it's a very difficult thing to sit there and listen to all of this and not try to have a response. But
when I play poker, actually I don't play poker, but my poker face that I use for, what is it?
Old Maid?
Gin rummy, I think is what we play.
Slapjack.
Gin rummy is, I try to throw off my opponents with my poker face. So I don't go straight. I'm always doing something and trying to kind of mislead them to, like, I might go, oh, but I didn't get anything. I'd be like, oh, look at that.
So those little old ladies at the home, when you're playing gin rummy with them, they get caught off guard by those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to deceive them because they're sneaky too. They're real sneaky.
Vinny does have a reputation of playing games with the elderly, like when he had a pickup game in a pickleball in Brooklyn.
Like, just sign this will stuff over to me, and that's a nice little game,
Hey, pickleball brings people together. That's all I'm saying, and
we had like a little bit of a reunion, of some old friends last weekend. And one of the topics that came up is about how, and everybody's of my age, about how everybody at the table hated pickleball.
Really?
Yeah, and
they played it.
A couple of them tried it once, but it seems that people want to hate it because it's suddenly so popular and we don't understand.
Right. See, I was there in the beginning before the boom. I
told them about you.
I was there right before it took off, and then I've watched it. It's been amazing. So let's do this. So we've got this interview with Dr. Ramsland, who's been on my show tons of times. We bring her in as an expert. She's a professor. She teaches criminology and different courses. And the defendant was her student. She was also his advisor. So let's take a look at a piece of Brian Enton's interview on News Nation with Dr. Ramsland.
Meet Brian Koberger. What classes of yours was he in?
Okay, I want to be just clear that I'm still within the FERPA limitations that protect students and student information. So I will talk within that. I met him in the fall of 2018 when he came to DeSales University. He had an associate's degree and he was going to get into our 4-year program as a psychology major. He selected the forensic track, which made him an advisee for me because I managed the forensic track. And he was also in my class that semester.
What was your perception of him?
He seemed like eager to be in the classroom. He was polite. He was respectful, intense, and curious. And there was no reason for me to think that he was anything other than someone who was really interested in this potential career.
Jonesy.
Yeah, I focused in on the word intense because I don't know, somehow that strikes me to do what that particular gentleman, for lack of a better word, did. It's pretty freaking intense. So it doesn't surprise me that he was like that in class.
Yeah, he was polite though. Also,
well,
which
yeah,
is interesting.
Do you think that maybe she's failed in her profession, that she couldn't pick out the fact that he was going to be a serial killer,
As always, the ones you don't expect.
Yeah.
But isn't that what she's supposed to be teaching us?
Which means it isn't me. It's one of you guys.
No,
I don't think she's a profiler per se.
I'm only kidding. I was being facetious and didactic. I'm sorry. It's July 4th.
If you're being didactic, why don't you get some Tums?
No. Didactic. Please take your Funkin' Wagnalls out and look it up, and you can figure out what the word is.
I think it was 4 classes that you taught him in. What were those classes?
There were 3 undergraduate courses in the forensic track that I taught, and he was in all of them. Well, one was Introduction to Forensic Psychology. Another was my death investigation class, which was called Psychological Sleuthing. And the third one was called Dangerous Minds, the Psychology of Antisocial Behavior.
Hi-yo.
And then he got into the graduate program in criminal justice for a master's degree. And he took a course with me called Behavioral Criminology.
See, the interesting thing is this: she should have known there was a problem that when asked about the class about the dangerous minds, he asked, "Is this pro or con?" So that's usually the first clue that there is somebody that is a little bit wrong. And the 6th course was home economics. That's the ninth.
Let me ask you this. Someone who's interested in all of this, what better way to study the criminal mind than to actually engage in it? It gives you a first-hand experience.
That's Dexter.
First-hand information. That's like a primary source where you don't have to interview someone. You don't have to learn it from a book. You learn about it by actually doing it.
Right. That's Dexter. That's basically what the premise was of the fact that he was a serial red rummer who only executed serial red rummers. And it was a man that, knew what to look for because he was in it. And that's how he was able to figure out the crimes and figure out the perpetrators. And so you've got a scenario here where you've got an individual, it's very, the so-called perfect crime has yet to be perfected. Okay. Because there's always one little screw up because human beings make mistakes.
Well, the perfect crime never gets solved. So there's never a case. So there have been some perfect crimes.
Well, but I'm talking about with regards to these types of things now, where we have so much that can be done at a crime scene.
Oh yeah.
That you've narrowed it. You take a look at that Sacco and Vanzetti with they were trying to do the perfect crime, and what happened? They left a set of glasses there. Okay, so
Hey, are you saying Sacco and Vanzetti are guilty? They were pardoned.
Well, I'm not saying they were. In fact, I'm giving the wrong case too. I'm talking about the Clarence Darrow situation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Stop picking on
I'm
the
sorry.
Italian Americans today.
I-
Al. Come on, you're a paisan, you know.
I'm sorry. I apologize on that. But so what I'm trying to say is that everyone has tried to pull off the perfect crime, and I'm sure that's what he tried to do. And what happened? Knife sheath is there.
What do you think he does, though? Here's a question. If he gets away with it and he continues his education and he gets his PhD, what does he do with it? Does he attempt to work for law enforcement? Does he go to work as a professor? What do you think he does with his degree if he doesn't get caught? And that might help us answer the question on why he's doing this.
I think that question would be better answered if we knew why he did what he did. If there was some sort of emotional issue with one of the victims, like the ladies or something like that, I think that has something to do with it, right? Like if it's just totally random, like he's going to do it again.
If I could just correct myself from before, Leopold and Loeb is the case I was thinking of. Leopold and Loeb kidnapped a young boy and executed the young boy and tried to do the perfect murder because they thought they were bored, and they were extremely rich, and they were bright, and they were captured by the fact that one of them left their glasses not too far away from the where the body was found.
So if they weren't pardoned and they're not Italian, then we can say guilty, right?
Well, they were guilty. They pled guilty. The only thing that was the question was whether or not they were going to be depenned, and that was where Clarence Darrow was smart enough to plead them and then argue against the depen because of their age, and they were ultimately not given the depen, and they were ultimately one ended up dying in prison, but the other one's actually released.
Michelle L. today, thank you so much. I think the prosecutor offered a standing plea at the beginning, and Taylor knew if she couldn't get DP off the table by the court, she would just take the plea. Both sides knew DP was never going to happen. That could very well be the case, that prosecutors never wanted to try this case.
Well, you know what? Look, and any time you have a case, it's always
that's your job, though, to try cases.
There's no doubt about that, but it's also your job. It's also your job to make sure justice is done and to make sure that the individual that perpetrated this crime is put away for a long time.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Why do we think the state of Idaho has the depen? Is it there? Do you think the legislature enacted it and put it on the books there to make the job of prosecutors easier? Or do you think they put it on the books for punishment for the worst of the worst?
It's a little bit of both.
It is.
It's a little bit of both.
No, it isn't. No way.
Yes, it is.
No way.
Look, any tool you can have in order
it's not
to
a tool. It's a punishment.
But it's a tool to it. It is a means to an end. Okay, it is a means to an end. That makes it a tool.
No, what it should be is the end by itself.
Doesn't have to be.
But if it's a tool, it can be used for evil instead of good. If it's a tool, then would that not put a person who perhaps is truly innocent but has an overabundance of evidence against them, even though they know in their heart they didn't do it, facing that particular penalty? Wouldn't it put them in a position where they might say, "I did it"?
It has happened many times.
Yes, I'm sure.
Many times.
By the way,
the interesting thing.
One second. I have to get in some shout outs here. Sue Fort, Jamie Avina Lund, Cheryl Sabin Hobbs. Thank you for the stars over on Facebook.
And your lights are on in the parking lot. Please make sure you turn them off.
Yes, and thank you to McSpunky. Happy 4th to y'all. Y'all-um. What does that say? Y'all-um?
I don't know what that is.
Use. The correct term is use.
Well, it is for Jersey. It's use. That's absolutely correct.
And
but
use guys is a bastardization of that. Use just says it all.
And the word ifin use guys makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
But the use of the firing squad I find fascinating. I find that fascinating because from the military parlance, the firing squad was an honorable death, okay, whereas hanging was considered the common criminal. And if you take a look at the defendants in the Nuremberg trials, okay, specifically Hermann Goering, said, "Listen, I know I'm going to take my fate. I want to have the firing squad," and they said, "No, no, 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 no. You're going to be hung like the common criminal you are," and he ended up taking his own life. Going back to the Rev War time, okay, Major Andre, who was captured by the Americans as a spy, he was caught wearing civilian clothing, begged Washington to allow him to have the firing squad rather than be hung as a spy, because of the fact that he was a gallant, distinguished gentleman, and he thought it would be just a tarnish on his family if he was hung. And Washington refused, and he went to the gallows as opposed to a firing squad. So a firing squad was an honorable way for an individual to die that would still keep the honor amongst his family.
I remember
the point.
I remember the controversy that was caused by Gilmore. I forget his first name.
Gary Gilmore's eyes.
Gary Gilmore's eyes. When he first chose or lobbied to have the firing squad.
Yeah, in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and that's when like I first discovered that the American judicial system in some cases uses a firing squad. I grew up with like the electric chair and the gas chamber.
Right.
The question was whether or not you would be standing or you would be sitting when the firing squad was unleashed.
You get the cigarette that dangles out of your mouth?
They don't do that, no, because you can't smoke in prisons anymore, Vin, so you're not allowed to do that. But Gary Gilmore was executed sitting down, and they have a target over your heart. So this way here, you know where to shoot, which is very nice that they give that to the individuals that are firing.
But the people don't know if they have lives or blanks.
Well, that was the way it was done in the military. I can't say that is the way it's done now. I can tell you that in the days of the military, they would do that. So
you don't know.
You would not know, but it was only one person got a blank. Okay, the rest of them all had bullets, but no one knew who had the gun, because your commanding officer would insert the cartridge and then hand it to you. So you didn't know whether it was live or was not.
Al, it looked like you were just doing a musket.
No, well, I mean, it's you have to put that down on there. And since I was talking about Major Andre. Okay, we would have been executed by muskets.
There you go. In Virginia, it's y'all, says Paula.
I like y'all, but I got to be true to my roots, so it's yous.
And you also have utes.
Oh, what's a ute?
Bo Peep with God Bless America, the USA. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
Why? What do you think happened on this day, Jonesy?
Dear friend of ours.
Civil rights and
Wait a minute. I have to do something. Here we go.
Civil war to civil rights and all the revolution fights. World War I and World War II. Al always knows who is who. It's this day in history. This day in history. History. Now let's listen to his story.
All right, Al, this day in history.
July 4th, 1776. Declaration of Independence was final wording was ratified. Okay.
Question.
Interestingly enough, it was adopted on July 2nd. So the true date of the adoption of the Declaration of Independence, the motion that was set forth by Richard Henry Lee, a distant cousin of the great Robert E. Lee of the Civil War fame, and a cousin of Light Horse Harry Lee, a tremendously incredible general during the Revolutionary War, was adopted on July 2nd. So your question, I'm sorry?
Is the Declaration of Independence written in cursive? Because they're not teaching cursive anymore, and I'm afraid we're going to have a generation that will never be able to read the Declaration.
No,
That's one of the first things that came to my mind when I heard that they weren't teaching cursive anymore.
Yeah, it is a sad art that you're going to be losing by not having penmanship and things along those lines. But the other interesting fact about the Declaration of Independence is it didn't start getting signed until August. So there were no signatures on the document until August of 1776. 1826, and I'm going to keep this on the Rev War history thing because this is basically works forward with that. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams both die on the same day within hours of each other on the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence.
A conspiracy.
Wow.
Jefferson dies first, Adams dies second, and Adams' last words were, "Jefferson still lives," because he did not know that Jefferson had passed earlier than he did. In 1802, the United States Military Academy at West Point was officially opened. In the true crime aspect, speaking of the perfect crime, Michael McGow and Darlene Ferrin were shot on July 4th, 1969. McGow survived. It was documented in a letter sent to the press by the so-called Zodiac killer, the most famous unsolved red rum cases in U.S. history. He claimed to have had 37 victims in his famously misspelled and cipher-ridden letters, and the Zodiac killer ended up sending 15 total letters out there. The case remains open in California. In history, on July 4th, 1863, that's the retreat from Gettysburg after a 3-day battle in which there were 51,000 casualties, 23,000 Union soldiers that were either killed or wounded, 28,000 Confederate soldiers wounded or killed, 11 generals between the two died in battle on those 3 days, July 1, 2, and 3. And also at the same time, it was on July 4th, Ulysses Grant captures Vicksburg, which was really the death knell to the Confederacy at that point. It had successfully divided the Confederacy, and at that point, the Mississippi and all of the rivers that were being used by the Confederacy were no longer able to be used. It was a battle that was a 47-day siege, which the poor people of Vicksburg had no food. They had nothing. And then finally they surrendered on July 4th. 1884 is the formal presentation of the Statue of Liberty from France on this day. And finally, in 1939, a day that has always been a movie that it just always brings a tear to my eye, called The Pride of the Yankees. Lou Gehrig declares that he is the luckiest man on the face of the earth. He retires from Major League Baseball and ends up passing away as a result of what is now known as Lou Gehrig's disease. So that's what's happened in history. That's what's happened in true crime history, and that's what's happened in Revolutionary War history. So, any questions? Any questions?
That's a big day. It's a big
Well, you know
day.
what? The Pride of the Yankee movie, what's very interesting, is that Babe Ruth is actually in that movie. And
really?
a number of the Yankees that played with Lou Gehrig played themselves in that movie. So it's a nice little interesting fact. You see that movie, you see Babe acting like the Babe.
Well, speaking of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, my grandfather did cut their hair.
So there you go. Do you have any luck? Did he save any of those?
He should have, because these days we could have cloned them
Yes.
Cloned them or sold them?
or turned them into diamonds.
Yes, that's
Now I knew about Babe Ruth, but how is it he did like multiple ball players?
Yeah, because they would go on the road. barnstorming.
Yeah, they did barnstorming all
And
around
they-
the country.
And
That's how they made extra
Rick
money.
played in Jersey as well.
I
Isn't-
played
yeah,
in Fort Lee. Played against my great uncle,
ah,
Babe Misano, who had the nickname Babe because he also hit home runs, and they called him Babe Misano. And he's known more famously for opening up a cab company called Babe's Taxi.
Oh wow! An ex girlfriend of mine's live-in boyfriend used to work for Babe's Taxi on Saturday, so we would get together when he was at work.
There you go.
By the way, it's Bobby Hansen's birthday. Happy birthday, Bobby Hansen.
Happy birthday! Hey, Vinny, we're gonna have to start calling you Babe.
You know it's you, babe. Oh, also, by the way, if you get a chance tonight on Turner Classic Movies, 1776, the musical, historically not accurate, but it was actually a very, very fun musical to watch. Some great stars in it. I did the 8th grade production of it, playing the role of John Adams. And so you can, see it and hear me sing. Mr. Livingston, maybe you should write it. You have many friends and you're a diplomat. Whereas if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their quill pens through it. I'm obnoxious and disliked. Did you know that? And I received an award in the 8th grade for playing John Adams.
Well, it seems to me you were born and bred to entertain.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to the doctor.
Okay.
Is there anything, Dr. Ramsland, when you look back and you think about the curriculum of those classes, and not getting into his specific experience, but when you think about what you taught in those classes that you think, oh my gosh, he may have used that in what he's now accused of doing here in Idaho?
Well, the antisocial behavior course involves serial killers and mass murderers, and we do a lot of case analysis. I use two books that I wrote. One was written with the BTK killer, whom you just mentioned, and his decision process and the crimes and how he thought about them and felt about them and what was it like for him, to be caught. So that's a very intense book. And also I have one called The Mind of a Murderer, which was about various behavioral experts over the past century who interviewed killers, mass murderers, and serial killers to get as close as possible, spending a lot of time with them to get as close as possible to their process of becoming a criminal. And so he would have been exposed to that. I think now looking back, I would look at maybe some of the things that interested him as being, something that gives me pause. But we always have to think about, we all know, everyone in this field, forensic psychology and criminology, know that we could have students who might become offenders. But we also know that the vast majority of our students will not, and will instead go into a field like law enforcement, FBI, Secret Service, that make the world better, that protect us. So we know that there's always a risk that we're attracting somebody who wants to do something terrible.
Can you say, Dr. Ramsland, what it was looking back now that sort of raises your eyebrows specifically in terms of things in the class?
I think just the idea of wanting to study offenders and what their thought process was, how they felt about their crimes, wanting to study that, and then finding out that this is a person who then is now saying he's guilty of doing these things. I have to look at the framework of what I taught and wonder, did I inspire him in some way? Did I, but I can't second guess that, because I may have inspired somebody else to become an FBI agent.
Let me ask you about that, because I find this interesting, really interesting. And it's like a chicken egg deal.
Oh, we're back to that again?
Yeah, we're back to the chicken. And by the way, we got to check in on the voting on the chicken egg
Tuna salad.
tuna
Dear
salad.
Lord,
Right.
please deliver me from this. I'm sorry.
So let's go chicken egg here. Did he go and study this stuff and then become inspired to do what he did? Or was he going to do what he was going to do and went to study it to learn how to do it better?
If I had to guess, I would say he was fascinated by these sort of things, and that it is neither of those two scenarios. That's just a guess, obviously.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Jonesy?
Well, I took a series of criminal courses, and I didn't study law or anything like that, but I was just like fascinated. Like I would read, books about crime and such, and also I wanted to waste time while I wasn't in broadcast classes. So I would choose things like violence in the community and stuff like that as my electoral.
Pro and con.
And, it's like it was just something that fascinated me. And I don't know, somehow my gut feeling is I doubt he said, like, let me take a couple of courses before I do this. He may have taken from that and thought, well, if I do it this way and that way, I will get away with it.
The preoccupation of the perfect crime, may have started when he was younger and had basically kept feeding that and continuing course-wise, and then came to the point where he thought he could pull it off. And of course he didn't. Thankfully.
But to commit the perfect crime, it would seem to me like it might be something that you have more of a stake in, more of a, these essentially were strangers to him, even if like he felt he had some kind of relationship with one of them. I would think if you're going to take the time to do the perfect crime, you'd want to profit or value from it somehow, not necessarily just do it like that. Wouldn't part of the perfect crime would be random, would it not? Because then you have no connection.
Of course, it has to be random, because if there was a connection, you're the first suspect.
Right.
Yeah. So they always go look at the circle of friends, and then they start moving outward.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's happened. I'm sure that happened here.
We do have, I believe, we may. Where are we? I've got to find it. I think we do have some potential results here that we need to get in.
You mean that very important poll about tuna, potato, and egg?
Yes.
It was tuna, egg, and chicken.
I can't pronounce egg correctly because I'm from Jersey. It's egg.
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 Egg. Egg. Egg. Egg. So basically, chicken salad, 57%, beating egg salad, and then tuna almost caught the egg, but did not quite catch the egg. So chicken salad, as predicted, is the winner. Where'd everybody go? There you are.
I'm going to make myself a egg salad sandwich, rye toast.
So I
seeded or unseeded?
Always seeded.
Pectors?
No, actually, I get a Russian rye bread.
Oh, you go to Brooklyn for that?
No, I don't have to. I can go to the ShopRite in Englewood, New Jersey, and they have a large Jewish population, and so they have this Russian rye bread there that's phenomenal.
Yeah, you know what else is phenomenal is some of the items in the true crime merchandise shop that we have, folks. It's the
you mean like this, the shirt I will be wearing at the pool later on today?
Yes,
very nice.
Absolutely.
Hey everybody, I've got something for your body. You can wear it by yourself or with Frankie Valli. It's true crime merch from Vinny Originale. It's true crime merch. It's true crime merch. It's true crime merch from Vinny Originale. From Vinny Originale.
Indeed.
I feel like Diaz is coming into the game for the New York Mets
Yeah, with the
with that
music.
music.
By the way, we have to acknowledge on this 4th of July the best mod squad in the business, ladies and gentlemen. How good are they?
Absolutely.
Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The Mod Squad is on the job, helping us to keep it clean. The Mod Squad is on the job, always so nice and never mean.
Yes, indeed. We've got Gen X, Frankie Figs, Jennifer Soubet, and Ashley Bouchard over there in the wild, wild west of Facebook.
Over there. Over there.
Here we go. So on this plea and everything else that's happened, I think there was an opportunity for the prosecution to get to the bottom of this. They didn't. Wasn't even on their bingo card. They didn't care. They did not care. All they want to do is wrap up the case nice and clean and be done with it and move on.
And it wasn't.
They didn't want to try the case. That's why he got the deal. Prosecutors did not want to try the case.
Was not going to happen. Not going to happen.
So,
and you know what? Let's look at it. All right, let's look at it from this standpoint.
So now they have to offer everyone that deal.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no precedent. There is no precedent on these types of deals.
Well, then it's a disgrace. Then it's a disgrace.
I have a question. If I may ask you guys, is there a scenario where the investigation information can be released with some press prodding? Will that be a matter of public record at some point?
Yes.
It is absolutely It is absolutely. It can be OPRD, okay, which is the Open Public,
FOIA.
Documents Act that would enable you to get these types of things, and you'll be able to get to. They will usually redact personal information about not only the defendant but also the victims. But you'll be able to get all of those reports.
But here's what's happening. I spoke with the attorney for the Gonzalez family, Kaylee's family, and he said one thing that they're requesting is access to all of the discovery. Because the family wants all this information. You know how the prosecutor's saying, we didn't want to put them through all of this. Well, that family wants to see every bit of information from this case.
And they will.
And they are making that request. The prosecutor better allow it and not make this family wait for the freedom of information requests and all the open record stuff. They need to let them in immediately to see anything and everything that they want to see in the files.
Then once it is closed, all of it will be disclosed.
I don't trust them, Al. They still have a gag order in the case. Why is there a gag order? There's no jury.
He hasn't been sentenced yet.
But the gag order is because of tainting the jury.
Doesn't matter.
No
he
jury to taint.
Hasn't been sentenced.
Ain't no jury to taint, Al.
Well, so what happens? What happens if the guy says, "I take back my plea"? Then all of a sudden, all the evidence is tainted, and the jury is, and then you have a situation.
You can't take it back. He can't take it back.
What do you mean he can't take it back? It happens all the time.
The judge would have to allow him. Judge doesn't want to try the case.
Exactly right, but that's the point. The point is, what happens if he gets up there and says, "Listen, I was drugged. They put me through this."
He gets a tainted jury.
Exactly right, and then he doesn't get a fair trial.
Those juries don't get tainted.
Then it'll be appealed till he's 643 years of age.
Al, let me tell you about a little state that I know. It's surrounded by water on three sides. It's called Florida. Florida has these sunshine laws. In every case in Florida, everything is an open record. Right, discovery is open to the public because they're not hiding things. And you know what? They have trials down in Florida too. And you know what? They get juries in those trials. Isn't it amazing?
And people that throw popcorn at somebody, okay, get red rum, and the defendant goes free.
So So how is the defendant? Harmed by
By the popcorn?
speaking?
It was-
No,
it
harmed
was-
by
it was-
open records.
It was assault and buttery. That's what he was
No,
claiming.
no. You just said a defendant got a fair trial, I guess, if in a state with open records. You were arguing the whole
No,
argument.
I was just arguing that
defendant
Florida
won't
is
get a
the
fair
most.
trial
I was arguing that
open
Florida
record.
is the most screwed up state in the world. Okay,
It's the freest state in the
screwed up.
country.
What?
That's Florida.
Oh no way! Not
It's the
prettiest.
freest state.
The
No
prettiest?
state income tax. That's free, baby. You would like to have the extra whatever percent you pay up in Jersey, wouldn't you?
Oh, I don't even want to mention the percentage I pay. But I do that to live in this country, Vin. All right, I pay my fair share.
Yep.
Gosh
God bless
darn it.
America. God bless
That's exactly
America.
right. And this July 4th,
You know,
no taxation without representation.
you gentlemen should try like making less money. I mean, I make practically nothing, so I don't really pay very much.
You don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
Well, you pay sales tax.
You got one of them there cushy like 5-figure jobs. You know what I'm saying here? 5 figures. You know.
All right. Time to start a civil war. Terry Zeris is asking, sorry to get off track, but is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Okay, I'm the guy who's been talking about this on the air for 30 years before it became a controversy. I grew up with it being Taylor ham. I would order it in every state in that I traveled, and they never knew what it was, and they would bring me all kinds of things like Canadian bacon. Taylor ham is a brand. I grew up calling it Taylor ham. I always called it Taylor ham, but eventually realized that it is Taylor ham pork roll. It is out of Trenton. Trenton makes, the world takes.
That's
Its
right.
competitors are Cases pork roll, Taylor ham pork roll. In northern New Jersey, we refer to it as Taylor ham, maybe because we could afford to buy, the extra 30 cents to buy the Taylor ham. I don't know. On the other side of the Driscoll Bridge, it's always been known as pork roll,
Right.
or pork roll stands on the beach. The bottom line is it's delicious. It's really good. I grew up with Taylor ham. I swore by Taylor ham, but people have turned me on to the other brands. Cases, for example. I have photographs of myself outside of the Taylor ham factory and outside of the Cases factory that I drove to during the COVID out of boredom. And so I'm passionate about this issue. And I've tried Cases. Cases is very good. It's tangier. It's 6 slices as opposed to 4 or 8, which is Taylor ham.
I like the thick slice.
I do as well. I prefer the thick slice. And many of us cut the Taylor ham is circular. Many of us will cut it in like slices in it, so it will remain flat when you fry it and not curl up and not cook thoroughly.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
I'd like to do an imitation of General Patton.
There's also
No poor dumb bastard ever won a war dying for his country.
There's also Trenton pork roll, but Trenton pork roll is a generic brand of Taylor ham made by Taylor ham. They were competitors in the great state of New Jersey in Trenton. So let's just say it's delicious.
And just for those of you scoring at home, I'm going to be in Trenton on Wednesday, and I will be getting myself a mustard pot.
I was at a reunion with several people from Ewing, New Jersey, which is adjacent to Trenton.
That's
And
correct.
I said, I brought yous up, and I mentioned the mustard pizza, and they all looked at me with question marks on their face.
Wow.
Nobody from that area knowing.
All right, folks, look up Papa's Pizza in.
I have.
All right, so then it's the home of the mustard.
I'm going to try it the next time I'm in Ewing.
Well, meet me Wednesday. I'll be there around like 1:00. It's a BYOB, so I'll be bringing a nice little bottle of vino, and we'll enjoy.
All right. Gringa, thank you so much. A long, expensive trial with no guaranteed outcome. Yeah, there is no
Amen.
guaranteed outcome, but nothing's guaranteed. But this case was overwhelming. Like, first of all, we know he did it. His DNA was on the sheath at the scene. It was a case involving what goes inside of a sheath.
Except this. We had so many comments. Okay. And I look at the comments on YouTube and I answer the comments. and things along those lines, all doubting his, him being guilty of this crime.
Right.
There was a ton of.
So where did the
doubting.
DNA come from?
But I'm not disagreeing. You and I have agreed, and I don't remember Jonesy's position, but you and I have agreed from the beginning this was the guy. So we have solely said that. We never backtracked from that. But there were so many people that were saying
the pro burgers
set up. He was done this was that. It's a conspiracy. All of a sudden, again, it's like the children of the corn and coming out along those lines. There is never a guaranteed outcome. Now there is. He will never see the light of day. He will be in one of the worst prisons in the country in Idaho. Okay, a prison so disgusting. They have feces on the wall. The prisoners are beating each other up all the time. The guards are extremely cruel. This is one of the places that if you were going to be sent to a prison, you don't want to be in this one. Okay, and as I said, Dave Bell is there. He's going to be in a separate ward, but it's the same prison. So you're dealing with a very, very bad place. And a guy like this is going to be very popular amongst the population. So just keep that in mind, folks.
So the expense, I never put that in the equation. Like, this is what the system is for. I mean, this is what it's built for. And the expense, like, to me, it's irrelevant when you're talking about the gravity of what happened here. So I never put that in the equation. I know some people do, and I know victims' families get really, really angry when they hear about the expense.
It's not like they downgraded it to a manslaughter. It's not like they gave him the benefit of this mental issue that they were playing up. Okay, but all of that would have been coming out at appeals and things along those lines. He's now dead to rights. He is going to be there forever in probably one of the worst places in the United States. Justice has been done.
Michelle,
never going to get him to confess to why he did it. Never was going to happen. And I can't imagine a judge would even say that's even permissible under a plea. But let's, we have a difference of opinion on that.
Yeah, we can agree to disagree.
Yes, because this is America and July 4th. But it was actually ratified on July 2nd.
PK tried to fit in with future law enforcement, but then realized he fit in more with criminals and decided to switch teams. Turkey and baby Swiss on rye. Happy 4th. If you do the turkey and baby Swiss, what do you dress it with? You put some coleslaw on that?
A diaper.
I'm not a fan of putting cheese on turkey.
What?
Not a fan. Okay. You know what you put on it? You can put gravy. Okay. Ooh. I'm fine with the gravy. You can put some cranberry sauce. Fine with the cranberry sauce.
On a sandwich?
Oh, you kidding me? Do you ever get that from Wawa? Wawa makes that makes the most incredible.
We don't have Wawa in Georgia.
Well, maybe that's the reason why you're so testy.
We do have Jersey Mike's, who has turkey and provolone.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Nope. A cheese does not. You should not have. I never saw a turkey with cheese on it. I don't like it. Don't want it.
Wow.
Not the way to have it. You have stuffing. You have stuffing, gravy, cranberry sauce, turkey on a nice, crispy Italian bun. No. And you're all set.
I'll tell you what.
Turkey is my go-to sandwich. I mean, like when I order a sandwich, like 99.9% of the time, it is turkey.
With what?
Sometimes I'll do cheese. American cheese is my.
How do you dress it? Where do you get any moisture? Mayo?
No,
nothing.
No, in fact, well, gravy, yes. I mean, if you're gonna make a hot turkey sandwich, sure, gravy is fantastic.
But you have cold turkey on bread,
no dressing,
with no dressing,
right? And many times the delicatessen I'll get home and it will have mayo on it.
You put syrup on pancakes, for God's sakes, at least something, or just like everything like with no moisture whatsoever.
Well, on pancakes I'll put syrup, of course.
Sure.
But why wouldn't you put something on the turkey?
I'm just not a fan of mayo on a sandwich. And in fact, when I was younger, I refused to eat it.
How do you use it otherwise?
Tuna salad.
Tuna salad.
But that's a sandwich.
Well, not always. Sometimes they eat the tuna right out of the container.
Okay, we're not going down to
But you're not putting the mayo on the bread. You're mixing the mayo perfectly with the tuna.
The people have spoken. No more. The people have spoken. Listen, Salty, thank you so much, Salty. Happy 4th, and pray for the people during the Texas floods. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, that's horrible.
That is rough. Flooding is awful. I always look at, floods versus wind versus flooding is bad. There's nowhere to go.
It doesn't compare. Obviously the Texas floods is a horrible thing, but Asbury, no parking, as my gal calls it, flooded. The lakes overflowed during a massive storm a couple of days ago, and the streets just filled with water. Of course, it doesn't compare. There were no lives at danger or anything like that.
Elise, Vinny, we need more summer teas in the Originale store. There's a style I wanted, but it's gone. Please contact the mod squad and let them know what you're looking for, Elise, and we'll see what we can do.
Wow, exactly. Sold out.
Yeah. Let's see who else we have here. Yeah, here we go. Simply Solo knows provolone and turkey.
Not a fan of provolone.
Not a fan of putting cheese on turkey. Dumb.
Oh my goodness. Here we go. Carrie, ham, cheddar, yellow tomato, mayonnaise, garlic, salt, pepper. Boom.
Okay, wrong. You don't put mayonnaise on ham.
No, you put mustard on ham.
Amen to that.
Yes, mustard on ham.
Mustard on a hot dog. I will go with the ham, the cheddar, the yellow tomato, mustard, garlic. Oh, why would you put garlic on it? Garlic, salt, pepper. No, just pepper. Get the salt off. The ham is salty enough, all right?
Salt. You need salt.
It's cured in salt.
You need more salt.
Away the mayonnaise, put the good mustard. It's a good mustard. You get those mustard that has also a little horseradish in it. So you give a little kick to it. All right, that's the move. Mayonnaise on ham. Wrong.
Mike's Mayo has the best TV commercials. Featuring Jason Alexander. Is it Mike's Mayo?
I don't know. I'm a Hellman's man. Okay.
Oh, the TV commercials though with Jason Alexander are just fantastic. He plays every role. I digress, but I'm on a tangent.
All right, Jury, Judy, Todd, Kimberly, Vinny, how do you pronounce capicola? I know how I do, but I need to confirm you're still cool. Gabagool. It's gabagool.
It's not spelled like that.
So I went to the local store here, the deli section here in Georgia, and I asked for some gabagool.
Oh,
had no idea what I wanted. Oh, I said, "Excuse me, capicola, please."
And they gave you RC Cola.
That's a good product.
All right. It's getting about that time, gentlemen. Can he request to serve out his sentence in Pennsylvania? Happy birthday, America, from I Love Tacos.
No.
No, it's a state case.
Yep.
Because that's going to cost Pennsylvania money. It's a whole thing. He's not a ward of Pennsylvania. He's a ward of Idaho.
Yep, he's going to be there, and look up that prison where he's going to be going. It's a hellhole, and he deserves it.
And our friend Robert, and finally Vinny and Jonesy and Albert. We got breaking legal alert before Monday here in Baltimore, Maryland, Washington D.C. Bureau. We will be the first. Your guys know what we know.
I know what you know. But do you know?
Thank you, Robert, for the heads up. Always appreciate Robert. He's always in the chat. Michelle L is back. Deli turkey, Al, not hot. Miracle Whip only.
Oh God,
Miracle Whip is just like a cheap imitation of mayo.
I use that as an odor eater. Okay, I mean let's be realistic here, folks.
An odor eater.
Why don't you? Yeah. Why don't you just put whatchamacallit, marshmallow fluff on it? It's the same thing. Okay, jeez. Deli turkey still complete.
have a great day today. Thank you, April Diaz. We appreciate everything you say. We all know she's a great fan, and we know the kind words she has. We always love to hear from you. Thank you, April Diaz.
Ah. Happy 4th, the 3 most handsome men I know and the wittiest, most beautiful chatters I know.
Con leche.
Thank you, April Diaz.
Oh,
All right, fantastic.
stay away from Miracle Whip.
You know,
Spend the extra buck and get the mayo.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And deli turkey, you can still put gravy on deli turkey. Okay.
Oh, sure. I'm in fact in my even poorer days, I would get lunch meat turkey, and you have to be careful not to overheat it. But if you heat it up a little bit and add some brown gravy to it, or some turkey gravy,
Ashley Bouchard, it's the 4th of July. A lot of folks are going to have hot dogs today. What do you put on them?
Very simple.
Mustard.
Very simple. Sauerkraut, mustard, and the red relish you get at Hiram's. Okay. And it is an exquisitely wonderful product.
Is it Hiram's, the hot dog joint, the famous hot dog joint in Jersey that has the sign up telling you the rules, and one of which is you put mustard on the hot dog, not the bun itself, and not ketchup?
It says that anyone over the age of 10 that puts ketchup on their hot dog is not permitted inside the dining area.
That's excellent.
It's interesting. I love ketchup, but I never put ketchup on a hot dog.
My son puts ketchup on a hot dog. It kills me.
Yeah.
It really does. I feel I failed as a father.
Yeah, you did.
The sauerkraut, I can't stand that smell. What is it? Is that cabbage?
I don't like
Cabbage,
that.
of course. It's wonderful. Hiram's makes their own sauerkraut. It is in a big vat. You can put as much on as you want. It's the perfect way to have a hot dog.
Growing up, there was a family, my best friends growing up. They were Irish, and some days I walked into that house when the cabbage was going, and I was like, "Oh man!"
Oh yeah.
How do you go wrong with that?
I
Corned
don't
beef
like cabbage.
Oh,
Okay.
my gosh.
So we had some Polish immigrants live downstairs. It was a 2-family home, and they would cook on the weekend, and there was some god awful smell that would come through sometimes. And they eventually found out it was the cabbage.
The cabbage.
I like kimchi. I like red cabbage. I like regular cabbage, corned beef and cabbage, and sauerkraut. Okay.
I bet you like coleslaw. I use
I
coleslaw.
like coleslaw.
Oh my God. Let me tell you something. You want to talk about like something on a turkey sandwich? Like if I'm going to get a deli turkey sandwich, all right, put coleslaw on top of the deli sandwich.
I go to a diner, they give me a little cup of coleslaw. I put my cigarette out in it. I used to do that all the time. My friends and I did it. It was silly of us, but we would say, like, if we do this, they can't give it to somebody else afterwards.
And let me tell you another thing. Okay, so if you get a roast beef sandwich, you know what you put on top of that?
Brown gravy.
No. I'm talking about a deli. So if you got a deli, okay, potato salad.
Potato salad.
Oh my God! Let me say that sandwich was named after me at Fairfield University because that's where I developed it. And
is it lunch.
It is the wuncher, they called it.
Wuncher.
The wuncher.
Give me a wuncher.
Give me a wuncher.
No, make that a double. Give me a double wunch.
Yes. Well, it's kind of hard to even eat just one because it's very, very big. And you put the roast beef, very rare roast beef, by the way, pepper, and you put the potato salad on top on a good, a good roll. All right.
Yeah, I used to eat a lot of roast beef. I haven't had a roast beef sandwich in years.
I just had one the other day with potato salad on top.
In years, I used to get them at Roy Rogers.
Oh, they were the best. Before I'd go to college, there was a Roy Rogers right there. Before class, I would go there and I would have like 2 of them.
Yeah.
All right. There's a place in Brooklyn. Okay, it's called.
Wait. In Brooklyn, it's not 6 minutes from your house.
No, it's not 6 minutes from my house. Okay, but I was dating a girl that lived out there. All right, so it's a really, really good place. Okay, and it is called the Roll and Roaster. They made the best roast beef au jus sandwiches ever. Ever.
Like a French dip.
You know who would eat there? Barbara Streisand would come there. Okay,
Barbara Streisand.
Barbara Streisand. Neil Sedaka would come there.
How about Joe
Okay.
Namath?
I never saw Joe Namath there, but nonetheless,
Laurence
Winston-
Olivier?
nah, they didn't have Laurence Olivier, but they did have Neil Diamond.
He does
He
the
was there.
Polaroid pictures, doesn't he?
Oh,
He
he's good. He's good.
He's good. Love. Listen, she'll have some lemon with her tea, and I'll have a cheeseburger and some coffee.
A tea is much more refined. I've been drinking tea lately. It's much
I will
more
have the knockwurst. She will have the same. Where's that line from? Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh
Very
wow,
nice.
we were doing
When he-
Saturday Night Fever. We were
When
doing
he was
Saturday Night Fever.
when he took the girl out for
And they did
what's her name out for dinner, and the guy Ramon or whatever said to him, "You got to order for your date. It's really sexy," and they really like that. And he was like, "I will have the knockwurst. She will have the same."
My gal Gina has a thing about that, and it's especially prevalent in like TV and movies and film. So sometimes when we're out eating, like just to mess with the waiter, which is not nice to mess with the help, but sometimes she'll say the gentleman will have the turkey and
She
gravy."
orders for you?
Yes. Because she knows what I'm going to get, and it's just like kind of an ongoing joke.
That's nice. Winston Sayre says mustard, onions, and dill relish.
Yeah,
You
that's
also
the green
want the
relish.
onions.
Dill relish is the green relish.
Right.
Okay. You have not lived until you've had the red relish at Hiram's. Okay. Simple.
How about this from Dina Jam or Dinah Jam? Cheese, mustard, ketchup, mayo on my dogs.
Oh, dear God in heaven, shoot me now.
Yeah.
What
shoot
about
it now.
cheese though? Cheese dog.
Not a fan.
Nah.
Look, I'm not a fan of cheese fries. I'm not a fan of cheese dogs.
Are you
I'm
lactose
Frenchy
intolerant?
gravy.
God had meant cheese to be on French fries. It would be buried in the ground with it. It's
Are
not.
you keeping kosher, Al? You don't want to mix the cheese with the meat and the milk?
I have cheeseburgers. I do like a cheeseburger. Okay. But cheese.
How about
dogs,
Frenchy
oh,
gravy? French fries and brown gravy at a diner.
that's fine.
Yeah,
you
that's
dip
delicious.
that. Okay, you dip it in. You put that brown gravy on the side.
Oh, we
Okay.
poured right on, smothered.
Oh.
Wrong. That makes them soggy. You don't want soggy.
Not if you eat
fries.
fast.
All right, Al, will you at least enjoy with Michelle L. a mortadella and provolone with mustard?
What the hell's a mortadella?
Mortadella.
That's like a form of ham, but with
Of
mustard.
the dead. Of the dead.
How about
I-
spiced ham and potato chips? My mom used to serve me that for lunch.
Well, I'm going over this. I actually probably wouldn't have a problem with that, but I haven't had that. Usually, I have that with balsamic vinegar. A little balsamic
Now
on
you're
that.
getting fancy pants.
Well,
So- Here's a family recipe. Try this at home.
Oh,
And to
geez.
this day, I do it sometimes. Spiced ham, not a lot of it, on Wonder Bread, and you take potato chips, preferably Wise potato chips, put them on the sandwich itself, smother it, and then you crunch it down. Crunch, salty, salt-delicious.
How about the poutine?
The what?
Poutine is the food of my Canadian brethren.
It sounds
Says
like a
Ashley
foreign, dirty
Bouchard.
word.
That's the
I was thinking it was a bouton.
no, it's I think it's the French fry gravy kind of thing going on there.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, it's really good. I had it once. I didn't know what it was until
You know
I
what?
ate it.
You know what I had in Atlanta for the first time? Pot liquor.
What's that?
Okay, it's just like a soup that they give you at Mary Mac's Tea Room.
Oh, wow, you went.
I did. I went to Mary Mac's Tea Room,
That's
and
real
I mean,
soul food.
oh my God, what and the waitress sings to you. She and I actually did a duet of "You Don't Bring Me Flowers."
Wow.
Okay,
Like Streisand and
and then I
Neil
went,
Diamond.
and so I went on Saturday for lunch, and then I went Sunday for lunch
For
because it was
breakfast?
so good.
Yeah.
And she comes. All of a sudden, I walk in, and the waitress goes, "Albert, you're back!" And we did another song together. So
That's fantastic. Did you know that the Streisand Neil Diamond hit version of that song, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't record it in the studio together. A DJ mixed their versions together, and that's how it became they may have recorded it after that, but that's how it became a big thing and a huge hit for those two.
So Gringa says, I must have slipped past. I never ignore a super chat. It must have slipped past, but she agreed with you, Al, about chicken salad. Gringa
Good
did.
lady. Good lady. That's what I like to hear. I don't well chicken salad. What a waste of
Yeah.
time.
Can we get some love for Charlie the tuna over here, huh?
Look, I enjoy good tuna sandwich. I got no problem with that. I don't eat chicken salad. I don't like deviled ham. I don't like any of that kind of crap. All right.
Poutine is cheese, curd, gravy, and fries.
Okay.
It was like gravy,
I don't
but
have anything
not-
with the word curd.
Curd. Yeah, exactly.
I don't even. I'm even afraid in Afghanistan the Kurds, and that's with a K. Okay.
You don't like curd?
Oh my God, curd. How do you eat something called? How do you eat something that looks like it's been eaten already, and spit out? Okay, that's curd. Oh, I don't even eat yogurt. I don't even
I was
like
covering
that.
a trial in Wisconsin, and every day they were bringing me the curd,
Oh,
a bag of curd.
Oh.
Thank goodness the trial was only 2 days. Otherwise, I would have doubled in size. It was so good.
oh, just anything to do with the word curd just takes.
By the
me.
way, what is the best mayo? Since I've been living here,
Hellman's.
Hellman's.
No.
I'm very loyal to
Oh,
brands.
what you're going to come up with some fancy Tom's mayo?
No,
You can only get it in a store in Decatur.
Duke's, Kings of the South, Duke's Mayo, King of the South. It
Well,
is-
Jersey boy, you sure have changed.
No,
Yeah.
Hellman's is corporate. Duke's is the real deal.
That's not true.
You got a
Yes,
problem
it
with
is.
corporate mayo?
That's not true.
Yeah,
Hellman's
is
is
corporate
where it's
mayo.
at.
I grew up with Hellman's. Hellman's was good enough for my mommy. My mommy was a saint. I eat Golden's mustard because I grew up with that. I'm very loyal to brands that my mommy bought. Morton
Yeah,
salt.
well,
When
that's
it
because you haven't
rains,
had
it
Duke's
pours.
Mayo. Duke's Mayo is the best.
Hey, one thing I was never a fan of that my mother would used to buy was friggin' olive loaf. Oh,
Olive loaf.
Oh, every now and
I don't
then.
like. I got to tell you, I don't like any meat. Okay, that has some form of vegetable suspended in it.
And it's
Okay.
a ripoff.
I don't even like fruit in friggin' Jello. I don't like looking at something that's like encapsulated and just hanging there in the meat I'm eating or in the Jello I'm digesting. I want it plain simple. If I've said to her, why are you buying olive loaf? Well, it's better for you. Then what? Okay, buy the bologna because that's all it is. Bologna with slices in it. It's the
Wait a minute. When you're eating bologna, are you really going to like go for the bologna that's better for you? It's
Well, better
already
than
bologna.
olive loaf. How's
Well,
olive loaf
that's
better
what I
than
mean.
bologna?
That's what I mean. If olive loaf is better, so, sometimes Gina will get the urge for the olive loaf, so there'll be some in the fridge. I stay away from it.
I'm also not a fan of liverwurst.
You know, I grew up with. I would come home from school, and sometimes they would make me a liverwurst sandwich with mustard. And while I love things from my childhood, I will never revisit liverwurst.
Yeah, that's a painful one.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to educate you really
Oh,
quickly.
right. So what's more food that looks like it's been eaten already?
No.
Spit out in my cup.
No. This is about mayo, and people from the South are going to be with me 100% on this one.
All right, let's go.
I'm going to give you. It's going to be this day in mayo history.
You don't bring me flowers.
You don't write
So-
songs.
All right, here we go. It was at Camp Sevier in 1917 that the Duke's Mayo legacy began. Eugenia Duke of Greenville, South Carolina, made sandwiches in her home to sell to Army canteens during WW1.
The big one.
Eugenia's sandwiches and the mayo that gave them their special flavor were so unforgettably delicious that years after they left the camp, soldiers wrote to Eugenia begging for her sandwich recipes and jars of her delectable spread. She began bottling it as a product in 1923, over 100 years. And let me show you a picture of Eugenia.
So wait, can I just bring this up? That so it's at what is it at Camp Sevier, whatever, in 19
Camp Sevier.
San Sevier. Okay, so no refrigeration, and she's spreading that crap on some sort of a sandwich. It's putrid. Okay, there's no refrigeration
Eugenia
at that
making her
point. in time.
sandwiches.
And like, where's the refrigerator at a campsite? Look at her there.
Yeah.
She's
Why doesn't she get a real phone? Look at that phone, huh?
Look at that. Everybody likes Dukes.
Mary Hill 9,
the glitzy
39,
Gigi.
39.
I like Dukes.
But I still prefer Hellman's. Thank you.
Mo from Massachusetts loves Dukes.
Hiya, Mo. Nyah, 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 nyah. La-dee, la-da.
Trust me,
I look at the circumstance. Nyah, nyah, nyah.
Look at this. Look at this lovely lady making sandwiches for the troops. For the troops, Al.
For the troops, look,
She's
I got no
so
problem with the
God
troops.
bless the troops.
She's
And
taking
God-
money from the troops.
Dukes is much
more.
more patriotic than Hellman's.
I-
Hellman's, it probably isn't even American.
She was profiting from the troops.
Yes, that's exactly right. Spreading things. Just there in and of itself, I'm a little questionable on that whole thing.
God bless Eugenia Duke. And God bless America.
And then she ended up founding Duke University as a result of that. So Duke is mayonnaise money.
It's all mayo money. All right, gentlemen, it's
Speaking
about
of
that
Duke-
time.
Are we
Everyone's
leaving
gotta get
already?
on their way.
There hasn't been enough comments about how much people love your blue eyes today. That has me very depressed.
Let me see if I can find some.
Oh,
now
good.
we're going to get a bunch.
Now we're looking. Now we're
likely
looking.
to get a bunch right now.
Wonderful.
That's my guess.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Speaking of Duke, I saw Doonesbury on Broadway. It closed in like a week. It was horrible.
Oh,
Thank you.
Doonesbury.
What's it got to do with Duke?
Duke was the name of the character.
Oh, thank you.
The Hunter S. Thompson character.
All right. So we have covered our agenda for today. Happy birthday, America.
Yes.
Al, where can folks find you?
Well, I was not on last Monday because at the last minute I got cut. I was on the cutting room floor again, like my movie career, and but I'm supposed to be on this Monday at 8:00 on Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan and the blue-eyed baby Vin. And so I'll see you all and then and. Hasta la vista, los Tangenistas.
Jonesy, where can folks find the radio legend?
I can be found wandering the boardwalk aimlessly in Asbury, no parking here in New Jersey, exit 102.
Fantastic. And you can watch me every night, but not tonight because it's a holiday. It's a holiday.
Holiday.
A Monday through Friday, 8 to 9, Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan. 9 to 10, Vinnie Politan investigates 2 hours of live true crime. The only guy doing it in the business, folks. Nobody else on television is giving you 1 hour of live true crime every night. I'm giving you two. It's almost as delicious as the double lunch
Yes.
sandwich.
Two shows in one.
All right. So again, thank you to the Mod Squad. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the great conversation and all your support. Happy birthday, America. Say goodnight, Jonesy.
May you always have paradise by your dashboard lights. Good night, Jonesy.
Oh, wait. Mrs. Duke has to leave the stage first.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you for all your support. We are the Tangent True Crime Podcast. We'll see all of you in court. Somebody say tangent. Tangent. Somebody say podcast. Podcast. Tangent, tangent. Podcast, podcast. This is the Tangent Podcast. Good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you for all your support. We are the Tangent True Crime Podcast. We'll see all